Actually, we would like to provide all thanks to people in the forum, to Dr. Muhammad and to everyone present who is going to listen to the crisis, things in regard to the crisis in Yemen. Of course, talking about the crisis in front of you, it's going to be difficult to reduce and summarize. However, I hope that the dialogue and the comments will be completing this shortcoming. I will tackle this issue from 2 points. First, how to describe the parties in the conflict. Second, what are the solutions or the beginnings of reaching solutions. Before we go into the two issues, I would like to describe that what's happening in Yemen is a crisis which is very sophisticated and which has a lot of surprises. The evidence for this is 3 indicators which we need to take into consideration. The first, the collapse of the alliances, the alliance of the coup in Sana'a, which had ended with the death of one of the sides, the previous President Ali Abdullah Saleh in last December, at the same time at which there is a fragility in regard to the legitimate government and having problems the same way we had in Aden in January when we had this problem between the transitional council and the national forces and the alliance of the Arabs who are here to support the legitimacy have some positions sometimes which are not in harmony with their announced goal, which is to re-seize legitimacy. I stop here in this regard into the ambiguity and the complexity of this crisis, and I start talking about who are the parties in this conflict. In regard to the parties' description, we believe that it's not in the best interest of the Yemenis to describe it as chaos without having a specific side to it. The best interest politically is that there is a coup which have made the capital fall in September for the interest of militias. They said that they are rebels, and this is their own description of themselves. However, for the best interest of the Yemenis, we need to have this clear. The other side in this conflict is the government, which is legitimate according to the international community, which came through consensus and elections after 2011 revolution. Between those two sides today, we have a confrontation which is bloody today, and the two sides show a lot of fragmentation, violence. The two sides are fighting using arms. Looking at them with all their dimensions, the government represents the state. The rebels represent one Yemeni side. Of course, we cannot say that they are not Yemenis. However, their behavior is confrontational with the state. The two sides, and this is the complexity, is that we have Saudi Arabia leading the Arab alliance while having also Iran as a side which is in sympathy and with the militias and arming them. This confrontation had started to appear clearly since 2014, They used to say, the Iranians said the fourth capital, Arab capital, it had fallen into the hands of Iran. And as Yemenis, we understand that Saudi Arabia believes that we are the security strand of Saudi Arabia, or belt, and that whatever will come from outside the region will affect their security. Even for the rest of our brothers of the Gulf, we are in sympathy with their fears, especially that we had previous experiences in regard to this Arab security issues, which prove that the concerns are valuable and valid. The Saudi thing is not just related to Yemen. There are also other regional files. There are Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, and others. That's why any movement in the other regional files will be reflected in the Yemeni file, and any advancement in the Yemeni file will affect the other regional issues. This makes this crisis something outside the control, since we have so many things outside the control of the governments or people. That's why this the escalation scenario might be possible, but this does not mean that there is a horizon for searching for the points of agreement, and this is because there is no one crisis which will not be solved except by an agreement. We might sometimes have some lack of vision or some of shortcomings in regard to what we do. However, I'm going to present in front of you what we think is a possible solution. I hope that I can cover this within the time limit. In regard to to turning a new page in Yemen, we shall have the basics for solution. We believe that those are available for Yemenis. We don't have a problem with that. The Yemenis have had a dialogue with each other for over 5 years, where they have went through the official channels, and they reached national and regional and international decisions. There was a political dialogue for 5 years. We have the basics for and references for dialogue, and the Houthis were partners. When we talk about basics, we talk about a consensus of all the nation. The Houthis, even after what they've done, they cannot say we cannot bind ourselves to this because they were partners. First, those basics or principles came through peaceful processes, and none of the sides have forced the other party to go into this dialogue. The second thing, those principles were supported by national, regional, and international decisions. To mention to you, if you might not know the details, we have 3 references today: the outcomes of the national dialogue, the mechanism and the initiative of the Gulf, and the Security Council resolutions. However, we have obstacles in front of applying those principles. The first, which have appeared in more than one place, is the fear the Houthis have in regard to using those principles, especially that the history of Yemen shows that there was always a revenge political. Yemenis apply this, and this applies to all the people in the area. This fear had appeared in Yemen and Kuwait negotiations in regard to the tracks, which is before the other. Do we start with the security or the political track? The second thing, the two parts are fragile. The two sides have a problem with the fragility. Their agreements sometimes cannot be applied. There is also the lack of confidence in Houthis, since they are not abiding to the principles of the dialogue and they have a problem with the police forces in Sana'a, it's normal to have fears from them in regard to the next agreement because they don't apply or commit to what they agree to. The last point.